Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta, Volume 6, Uniting Two Worlds, Around the World / Return to Vrindavan, 1975 to 1977. A biography of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, by Satsvarup Das Goswami. Chapter 7, Chant, Hare Krishna and Fight, Part 4. March 22nd. The senior devotees in Mayapur felt Srila Prabhupada was too ill to travel and that he should remain there and recuperate. Besides, reports from Bombay were conflicting. Surabi Swami, knowing that Prabhupada's quarters weren't finished, wanted more time, so he wired Prabhupada, requesting him not to come. But Giriraj and others had been arranging a lecture program for Srila Prabhupada at a pandal in Azad Maidan in Bombay, and Giriraj had written inviting Prabhupada. Prabhupada considered the opportunities for preaching and decided to go. He had his secretary send a telegram from Mayapur to Bombay. Prabhupada arriving Tuesday at 13:50. Have rooms ready in whatever condition. But on Prabhupada's arrival in Bombay, he was so weak that he could not walk down the steep stairs from the airplane, and airline personnel arranged for him to be lowered to the ground by hydraulic lift. Once he was on the ground, several devotees assisted him in walking. Although he appeared frail, he smiled brightly when he saw the devotees waiting for him at the airport. In the car, Srila Prabhupada inquired about the Bombay temple, and Hari Shori informed him that his quarters were not yet ready, with no toilet, no running water, no doors or windows, and the workmen polishing the floors. Prabhupada dismissed these objections and said he would move in anyway. The devotees who knew the state of the building became extremely anxious. It didn't seem possible that anyone could live there, but Prabhupada said he would. Hari Shori said he was surprised Prabhupada had decided to travel, and Prabhupada replied, "Yes, even up to last night there was no chance of my coming, but still, somehow or other, we are here." Prabhupada was traveling and preaching because that was his life. For more than 30 years, he had been spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, first in India and then in America and throughout the world. As long as Krishna gave him even a little strength, he would continue. He wanted to hold the public lectures in the city, and he wanted to observe the progress of the construction at Hare Krishna land, his grandest temple. Even though the temple was not completed, he would move in and show the devotees how to use it. As they drove up to the entrance of Hare Krishna land, Prabhupada could see the tall towers of the ISKCON Hotel and the incomplete but massive domes of the temple. These huge structures dwarfed the little shed that was the temporary residence of Sri Sri Radha Rasa Bihari. The deities had been in that shed since 1971, when Prabhupada had moved them there with a promise that he would build them a beautiful temple. And now, after much difficulty and struggle, that promise was soon to be fulfilled. Radha Rasa Bihari would soon move into one of the most gorgeous and opulent temples in India. Hare Krishna land was intense with activity, as some 200 workers plied their various skills in constructing the temple hotel complex, under the direction of Surabi Swami and his assistants. A dozen men were cutting red stone slabs to cover the concrete superstructure of the hotel. Almost 50 marble workers were chipping away with hammers, making decorative columns and arches in the temple, and masons and interior finishers were working on the theater building. Much of the work was completed, yet everything still appeared bare, like bones without flesh. The hotel had no windows or doors, and of course no furniture or curtains, and the temple was mostly an unfinished structure. The work crews were moving quickly, concentrating especially on Srila Prabhupada's quarters on the top floor of one of the hotel towers. But even that was not ready, so Chitrakara, as ordered by Sarabi Swami and Giriraj, drove Prabhupada's car past the hotel to the rear of the property to where Prabhupada usually stayed, in an apartment in one of the old tenement buildings. Devotees were waiting at Srila Prabhupada's tenement room in happy anticipation. They were prepared with paraphernalia to perform a foot-bathing ceremony and arti, and they had spent most of the day cleaning the rooms, which were decorated with lily garlands and scented with incense. A group of devotees stood outside the building with mridangas and kartals holding kirtan, and some of the brahmacharinis were poised, ready to throw flower petals before Srila Prabhupada when he walked from his car and up the stairs. But Srila Prabhupada was in a different mood. "I will never again go into this apartment," he said. "Take me to my new quarters." Chitrakara repeated what Srila Prabhupada had already heard. "Your quarters aren't ready yet, Srila Prabhupada. It will take a few more days to finish." "Call Sarabi Maharaj," says Srila Prabhupada. He was adamant. The devotees in the apartment and in front of the tenement wondered why Srila Prabhupada wasn't getting out of his car. As Chitrakara was driving Prabhupada back to the hotel, Sarabi came, running up behind. "Why are my quarters not ready?" Prabhupada asked from the car window. Running to catch up, Sarabi explained that he needed a few more days and that Srila Prabhupada could please stay at his old apartment in the meantime. "You do what I say," shouted Prabhupada. The car stopped. "If I don't go there now," Prabhupada said, still speaking loudly, "it will never be finished. I want to go now." "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And Sarabi ran off to see if he could get the elevator to work. Meanwhile, the assembled devotees, having heard the news, also ran to be with Prabhupada as he entered his new quarters. Srila Prabhupada felt his time was limited, and if he was not insistent, his disciples would delay more and more. He had already been delayed for years by the landowner and the government. Even after he had purchased the land, the police commissioner had remarked that the kirtan was a nuisance, and had delayed construction for months by denying the no objection certificate. But, despite so many delays, Prabhupada had persisted and won. No, he wouldn't go back to the old place. Now the new Bombay temple should come to life, now that he had come. The elevator didn't work. The devotees, therefore, carried Prabhupada in a palanquin up the stairs to his fifth-floor apartment. The place was cluttered, and the floor was covered with a thick, greasy marble polish the workers were using. The dozen workers present were confused. Why was their work being interrupted? The devotees rushed in with drums, kartals, and arti paraphernalia, but just stood around, not knowing what to do. The room was bare, with no furniture, desk, or sitting place. Srila Prabhupada, however, looked around at the chaotic scene and said, "I'm going to sit down here." A devotee took off a woolen chadar and placed it on the floor in an isolated dry part of the room, and Srila Prabhupada sat down. "Now you can do what you like," he said. While some of the devotees began washing the floor, others ran to find serviceable pieces of furniture to provide Srila Prabhupada with a desk, seat, and bed. Sarabi Swami nervously bathed Prabhupada's feet and then offered arti, while devotees sang, "Sri Guru Charana Padma," and tried not to slip on the greasy floor. Surveying the scene with a satisfied look, Srila Prabhupada smiled broadly and said, "Thank you very much." When the welcoming function was complete, Srila Prabhupada was left alone with his secretaries. He said his quarters were to his liking. He spent the night there, but the next day agreed to move for a week to the home of Mr. Kartikeya Mahadevya. For a week, he would attend the Bombay Pandal program, which was near Mr. Mahadevya's home, and this would give Sarabi Swami enough time to get the quarters ready. Srila Prabhupada could not stand and walk without assistance. From Mr. Mahadevia's house, the devotees would carry him on a palanquin to the car. From the car, they would carry him to the room behind the Pandal lecture platform, and from there onto the stage, where Bhavananda Goswami would help him onto the Vyasasan. Compared to former Pandal festivals, where sometimes 30,000 people had gathered in one evening, this one was small, with only about 1,000 attending nightly. The main reason for such a small turnout was that India had just held an election and the people were absorbed in politics. On March 22nd, after the Congress Party had been defeated in the House of Parliament, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had resigned. Within a day or two, a new Prime Minister would be selected from the Janata Party. Many Bombayites who might otherwise have attended the Pandal lecture were caught up in hearing the news, attending rallies, or talking about national politics and the fall of Indira Gandhi. But the small crowd that attended was very interested. Prabhupada was not disappointed. I haven't been showing pictures yet from these books, but I thought I would show some of these pictures. This one says, Srila Prabhupada at Kumbh Mela, January 1977, this one. And then this one says, Srila Prabhupada views the photo display at the Gaur Purnim festival in Mayapur in 1977. And then this one will be what we're talking about now. It says the last Bombay Pandal, April 1977. So back to the text here. Srila Prabhupada spoke, and his faint voice was amplified over the sound system. Bhavananda Swami will recite 2 or 3 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he said, which is the theme of our Krishna consciousness movement. The first verse begins with Tadabaha King na Jivanti. Do the trees not live? Bhavananda recited loudly. Do the bellows of the blacksmith not breathe? All around us, do the beasts not eat and discharge semen? He read Srila Prabhupada's purport and then read the next verse. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. After Bhavananda finished reading the long purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada began his lecture. He explained how the spirit soul changes bodies life after life, but admitted that people are generally unaware of this simple fact. But at least in India, he said, this condition should now be changed. Not everyone would be able to realize this spiritual knowledge, but at least there should be an ideal institution, and that, he said, was the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, to create ideal Brahmins who could guide and instruct the rest of the society. Not from so-called politicians, says Srila Prabhupada. This is Indian civilization. Formerly, even Lord Ramchandra, who was the king, he is God himself, still he used to consult the learned Brahmins, sages, and saintly persons for governmental duties. The divisions of society must be there. There are so many things to be done in the Krishna consciousness movement. Don't take that it is simply chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna chanting is the prime factor, because if you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, then gradually everything will be clear in your mind. Prabhupada told how he had overcome opposition in America, and how the people there were taking Krishna consciousness seriously. When he stated his plan for a combination of American money and Indian culture, the people applauded. The real thing is knowledge, Srila Prabhupada concluded. So don't keep this knowledge locked up in your books, but spread it. My only request is that the leaders of India should now come forward and join this movement and take this advantage of doing good to the whole world. Thank you very much. The audience's applause swelled into a sustained ovation. Prabhupada's voice had been weak, his body almost motionless, but he had projected a power that had overcome those bodily limitations. His presence was, in fact, more commanding than ever. His energy was obviously the pure energy of the soul, transcendental to the bodily condition. Giriraj Swami called for questions, inviting people to come up and speak into a microphone in front of the stage. Woman: Isn't spiritual life very taxing? Prabhupada: Do you think that you are not being taxed? Why should you not be taxed for the proper gain? You are being taxed for so many nonsense things. Why not be taxed for the proper thing? That is intelligence. As Prabhupada answered the questions, he became more and more forceful, although he remained very still, not even moving his hand. His answers were not as lengthy as usual. He seemed to be saving his energy. But he delivered each answer with intense emphasis and conviction. A well-dressed middle-aged Indian man stepped forward and asked Swamiji, "What is the importance of health in life? And how do you advise people to maintain health, and how does it connect to your mission?" Prabhupada: What is health? First of all, you have to understand that however healthy you may be, you must die. So what problem will you have solved? Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. Krishna says, "It is not my manufacturing." Although you may try to remain very healthy, nature's law is that you must die. How can you help yourself? After all, you have to meet death. So long as you have got this material body, there is no question of health. You must suffer. You may be a very great scientist, but nature's law must act. Prakrite kriyama nani. Foolish persons bewildered by false egotism think, I am improving my health. I am improving this. He is improving nothing. He's completely under the clutches of material nature. He can't act anything independently. That is the law of nature. Another man asked if Prabhupada could solve political problems with this religious basis. Yes, Prabhupada replied, all problems will be solved when we become Krishna conscious. What is the simple solution to understand the soul? Another man asked. I would like to understand the soul. This is very simple, Srila Prabhupada replied. But you are educated so foolishly that you cannot understand. Srila Prabhupada explained briefly that the body is made of material elements, but that there is a superior element. Anyone can understand, he said. Everything is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, but people are not serious to understand. The morning after the first Pandal lecture, Srila Prabhupada sat with Kartikeya Mahadevya, Tamal Krishna Goswami, and Bhavananda Goswami. Ever since Prabhupada's extreme weakness of health had occurred in Mayapur, he would often sit for hours alone and silent. When he spoke, his voice was often hoarse or faint, but otherwise, his conversation was, as it had always been, completely Krishna conscious. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was becoming increasingly strong in his uncompromising criticism of all mudhas, who do not accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was condemning materialistic civilization, calling it a dog civilization or an anthill civilization. A dog runs on 4 legs and a human being runs on 4 wheels, but if he doesn't know the meaning of life, then he is no better than the dog. Both humans and ants build tall edifices, but if a man doesn't know of the soul and of Krishna, then despite his proud skyscrapers, his civilization is no more than a glorified anthill. If more visitors come, Prabhupada said, I shall describe all this anthill civilization. Health? Nonsense. What health? He'll be kicked out immediately. Srila Prabhupada was referring to the man's question from the pandal. Who is healthy if he is going to die? Prabhupada asked. I am so healthy that I am going to die tomorrow. This is their health. Almost every one of those questions, said Tamal Krishna Goswami, was about the body. Prabhupada. Krishna says, Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. That is healthy. When you do not die, although the body is destroyed, that is healthy life. What is this healthy life? The body is finished and everything. Actually, everything is not finished, but people are kept in that ignorance. They think the body is finished and then everything is finished, but that is not the fact. Krishna very clearly said, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. The soul never takes birth and never dies. Bhagavad Gita 2:20. If you do not question, then how is it possible? But that is the most important question. Prabhupada mentioned that despite the United Nations World Health Organization, still everyone was going to die. Where is health? He asked. Such foolish things are going on all over the world. So organize. Introduce reality to them and spread it, slow but sure. So we shouldn't be impatient and compromise, said Tamal Krishna Goswami, just to be popular. There's no question of becoming impatient, said Srila Prabhupada. You have got a diamond. If there is no buyer of the diamond, that does not mean that you have to throw it away. You must know that here is a diamond. If I want it, I must pay the proper price. That I want to establish. Why India's culture should be lost in this way? I am not a cheap patriot. I want to give Indian culture to the whole world. I am not going to cheat people taking Bhagavad Gita and speaking all nonsense. I want to present Bhagavad Gita as it is. That is my mission. Why should I cheat you? We will try to follow your message properly, said Mr. Mahadevia. Why should India's big culture be lost for the matter of these rascal leaders, said Prabhupada. They should be stopped. Krishna consciousness is all-inclusive. Just like the economic question, Anad Bhavanti Bhutani. Krishna says grow food, it is practical. But when I was traveling, I saw millions of clerks coming to get education. And who is growing the food? Then these clerks have to be provided in these pigeonholes and depend on ration. Is that civilization? Throngs of people are coming. They are coming like ants. And when you go to the village, it is all vacant. No one is interested to produce food. Everyone is interested to live in the city in these pigeonholes and go to the cinema, the brothel, go to the club, learn how to drink, how to become gentlemen. Is that civilization? The human aim of life is lost. You do not know why you are going to the office, why you are eating. They are keeping humanity in an animal mentality, a doggish mentality. University education is a doggish mentality. The dog wags his tail as soon as you give him some food. Oh yes, said Mr. Mahadevia. For application for a job, there are 5 jobs and 5 dozen people apply. Is that education, said Prabhupada? Better not to be educated. Those who are not educated, they can purchase 5 rupees worth of potatoes and sit down anywhere. After spending so much money, living at the cost of fathers and mothers, they have no job and no food. Then they plan some political party, Naxalite, or this or that party, and join a political movement and help Indira Gandhi. You are paid to make propaganda. But all that has vanished now, said Mr. Mahadevia. That plan has completely failed. Like many other Indians, Mr. Mahadevia was hopeful that with the new election, conditions would be improving. No, said Prabhupada, another one will come. This unemployment is there. When I was a child, we were purchasing mustard oil for 3 annas, and now it is selling for 13 rupees per kilo. Will a change of government bring this 13 rupees to 3 annas? Then what is the benefit? Stool is stool, whether you take it from the top side or the bottom side. A few devotees entered the room and sat while Prabhupada encouraged them all in preaching. He said that people cannot get relief through government but through Krishna consciousness. Krishna and his devotees were for everyone, not for a particular nation or person. The people are in darkness, said Prabhupada, and the politicians are keeping them like dogs, hogs, and camels, taking a vote from them and becoming a leader. Nobody protested last night, however, that I called all men dogs, hogs, and camels. No one came forward and said, "You are using very strong words," but it is all a fact. They especially liked your idea, said Hridayananda Goswami, of American money and Indian culture. They applauded for that. Yes, that is my mission, said Prabhupada. I am doing that. I am bringing money from America. Nobody is paying me. It is not a joke. 10 lakhs of rupees. Who else brings? Even big export companies don't bring so much, said Gopal Krishna. And they will be glad, said Prabhupada. They have got money and they are getting culture. I am trying for United Nations. That is the real attempt. Not this United Nations. All rogues and thieves and cheaters, barking dogs. I am trying for real United Nations. Let us cooperate together. Srila Prabhupada's disciples rallied to hear him speak like this, and they resolved to somehow counteract the forces of ignorance through Krishna consciousness. He said they should proceed slowly but surely, just as he had done. He had begun humbly, loitering in the streets of New York, and before that he had been living alone in the Radha Damodar temple. But now there was the Bombay temple, a palace that would be crowded with thousands of guests to see the deity and attend cultural programs. Do it enthusiastically, said Srila Prabhupada. You are all young men. Our enthusiasm is coming from you, Srila Prabhupada, said Tamal Krishna. I am old man, said Prabhupada faintly. But the devotees didn't accept that. Srila Prabhupada was Nava Yovana, spiritually ever fresh. Each night, Srila Prabhupada had a different devotee read a verse and purport. Leading disciples like Hridayananda Goswami and Giriraj would lecture, and Prabhupada would speak afterward. He continued stressing India's real message to the world and the misfortune that occurs when people, especially the Indians, neglect it. Based on his bold statements, some devotees had made a big sign and posted it outside the pandal. The modern civilization is a failure. The only solution is Krishna consciousness. In his evening lectures, Srila Prabhupada advised his hearers against identifying with any political party. One day, someone is a prime minister, he said, and the next day, that person is finished. Although Prabhupada had begun his lecture series by apologizing to the audience, saying he could not speak much because of his poor health, each night he very strongly argued that Krishna consciousness is the only solution. And during the question and answer period that followed his lecture, he was often explosive. When chanting, a man asked, through the microphone at the front of the stage, you chant the name of Rama as well as Krishna, but I do not see any photograph of Rama here. What is the reason? You do not see, but can you hear? Prabhupada asked. I do not see, the man insisted. Srila Prabhupada exploded, but you do not hear. And he went on to explain that hearing is the best way of understanding that which you cannot see. Another man asked how a religious-minded person could move in the material world. Prabhupada replied, therefore you have to understand your spiritual identification. But because you are fools and rascals, you are thinking I am this body. He said that to realize this knowledge, one must be trained by a spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada was aware that most of the questioners had no serious intentions of following him. So sometimes he reprimanded them, like an older brother, for their foolishness. Even their asking philosophical questions with no intention of following was itself foolishness. But Srila Prabhupada continued to offer the diamond of Krishna consciousness, even when the inquirer didn't possess the purchase price of sincerity. He offered it nonetheless, and at great expense to his own physical condition. When a man rhetorically asked Prabhupada to kindly enlighten him about the soul, Srila Prabhupada replied, "That is already explained, that you are a soul within the body." Srila Prabhupada elaborated on how the senses are superior to dull matter, the mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is higher than the mind, and the soul is highest of all. So it requires study, he said. It requires education. The education is there. The books are there. The teachers are there. Unfortunately, you are not interested to take this spiritual education. You are now interested in technology, how to hammer, that's all. Each evening, a prominent guest would appear at the pandal and introduce the program. One night, after J.M. Gandhi, a justice of the High Court of Bombay, spoke, Bhavananda Goswami read aloud the first two verses, along with Srila Prabhupada's commentary, from the teachings of Lord Rishabhadev in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada spoke briefly and agreed to take questions. If God is everywhere, a man asked, why his presence is not felt by everybody? Everybody is not intelligent, said Srila Prabhupada. Mostly they are rascals. Manushyanang saharishu. This is the statement by God that out of millions of persons, one tries to become perfect, and out of many millions of perfect persons, one can understand God. So, God understanding is not so easy. But if we want to understand, God will help us. That is the point. The next man said he had several questions. My first question is, I don't think God is opposed to sex. Seriously. I have heard many a lecture, and it is always stressed as if the God is opposed to sex, but I don't think that's so. God is never opposed to sex, replies Srila Prabhupada. Who said? God said, Dharma virudho kamosmi. Sex which is not against the regulative principles of religious life, that I am. God never says stop sex. Otherwise, why is there grihastha ashram? Ashram means that there is Krishna consciousness. But make it ashram and follow the rules and regulations of ashram. Then it is all right. Otherwise you are bound up by the laws of nature. The same man then referred to Prabhupada's purport which Bhavananda Goswami had read, in which Prabhupada had criticized the life of the hog-like man who lives only for sense gratification. One of your principal statements, the man said, was that a man goes on the motor tram, stands there for 2 hours, reaches his place of business and works there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, returns back, has his food and sex and all that. I found many people who have worked very hard, raised children very nicely, have sex, but lead a good life. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yes. If there is no wrong, said Prabhupada, it is all right. But this sort of life is not very palatable. The man continued, because I find even the dog, Srila Prabhupada interrupted, but his reply was soft and humble. If you like that life, if you feel it is good, then that is up to you. But I don't think this is a very nice way of life, to work so hard simply for bread. No, the man said, I agree there. Srila Prabhupada then raised his voice more strongly. Then agreed. Then why disagree? That's all right, no more. The man had more questions, but Tamal Krishna called on someone else. Would you agree that God is just a concept? If you do not, please give a logical reason for that. Prabhupada, why shall I agree that God is only a concept? Because I want it logically. You do not know logic. You have to learn logic. But I would still like you to explain it logically. Yes, but you have to learn how to know it. There is master, just like you cannot prove logically that without father there is a child. Srila Prabhupada explained that everything we see is growing out of the earth, and the earth is described in the Vedas as the mother. But there cannot be a child without a father. Where there is mother and child, there must be father. God, therefore, is the father of everything. Srila Prabhupada's disciples were urging him not to exert himself. So, when Swarup Damodar arrived, Srila Prabhupada asked him to give the evening lecture. Prabhupada was very impressed with Swarup Damodar's scientific presentation of Krishna consciousness. One of the devotees remarked that Swarup Damodar's talk seemed too technical for the audience. But another devotee replied that even if no one else had appreciated the speech, Srila Prabhupada had, and so it was a success. Following Swarup Damodar's lecture, Srila Prabhupada spoke for about 5 minutes and left, without taking any questions. The following night, Prabhupada did not speak at all, but he sat on stage while two of India's leading cardiologists, Dr. Kesha Rao Date and Dr. Sharma spoke. Srila Prabhupada had been garlanded by Dr. Date, and he sat patiently and silently on the Vyasasan, satisfied that prominent Bombayites were honoring the Krishna consciousness movement. Dr. Date spoke about heart disease and said it could be eliminated by controlling anxiety. He then praised Srila Prabhupada and his movement. After the doctor's brief talks, Swarup Damodar gave another scientific lecture and showed slides. Srila Prabhupada later told Swarup Damodar and others, "This scientific program is giving me extra strength to preach Krishna consciousness." "It seems like you are giving more stress to science in recent years than previously," said Tamal Krishna Goswami. "That is required for convincing the modernized man," said Prabhupada. "Perhaps I am the first man who protested against these unauthorized scientists." "Oh yes," said Swarup Damodar. "Everybody is afraid of them except Srila Prabhupada. Frankly speaking, I never knew that the problem was this serious before I met Srila Prabhupada. I never thought about this." "Therefore I took it so seriously," said Prabhupada. "Every morning walk, I would look for you and ask, 'Where is the scientist?' I thought, 'Here I have got an opportunity to impress a scientist, and that will fructify.' That was my aim, therefore I was bothering you in so many ways." "It is your incredible mercy, Prabhupada," said Swarup Damodar. "Because I cannot use the technical words," Prabhupada said, "and he can do that. So I wanted that he should be trained up." Giriraj arranged that one of the newly elected Janata Party members of Parliament come and see Srila Prabhupada. The gentleman, Mr. Ratan Singh Rajda, was eager to meet the leader of the Hare Krishna movement. So, while Mr. Rajda had been attending a political rally at Shivaji Park, Giriraj had come to arrange the meeting. "When I went there," Giriraj told Prabhupada later, "he asked me to sit with them on a dais, so I did. But was that wrong?" "Why not?" said Prabhupada. "He's honoring you." Giriraj said that Mr. Rajda had asked to be the first speaker at the rally so that he could be free to come and meet with Srila Prabhupada before leaving the next day for a meeting with the central government in Delhi. Giriraj explained that Mr. Rajda was a member of Parliament from Bombay South, which was the most prestigious district, and that he had formerly helped ISKCON in their case against the attempted demolition of the temple. Mr. Rajda entered the room and made a respectful gesture of obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. He said he had met Srila Prabhupada once, but since then he had been in jail for 19 months. Srila Prabhupada seemed surprised. "Jail?" he asked. Mr. Rajda explained that he had been jailed during Indira Gandhi's political emergency. More than 150,000 patriotic people had been imprisoned, he said, including J.K. Prakash and the present Prime Minister, Morarji Desai. When Giriraj told me that you were here, said Mr. Rajda, I told him definitely I would like to ask for darshan. This attempt at material adjustment, Prabhupada began, speaking slowly, just like we felt a little danger under the regime of Indira Gandhi, now we have another feeling. This is material adjustment. Material adjustment may be temporarily beneficial, but that is not permanently beneficial. Mr. Rajda replied, unless there is adhyatmika adjustment, there cannot be lasting benefit. Mr. Rajda was obviously acquainted with the Sanskrit Vedic knowledge, and he was also aware of the value of going to see a saintly person. Prabhupada persisted, however, in making the point that people do not really understand spiritual life. He described that the material body is made of different elements, and yet the living being is different than these elements. Unless we understand this fact, he said, which is very nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita, this material adjustment will never make us happy. Mr. Rajda followed Prabhupada's point, but asserted that a great change had taken place since the elections. The basic difference, he said, is that formerly there was no moral code observed by the rulers. He was entirely agreeable, or wanted to be, with Srila Prabhupada, yet they were speaking on different levels. Both asserted that spirituality was needed in government, but Mr. Rajda's political conclusion was that such spiritual reform was now present in his political party. Srila Prabhupada, however, continued to speak of people who talk of God, yet don't even know the identity of the soul. He didn't specify whether this criticism applied to the former or to the present political party, although his remarks seemed to include both. Whoever was not in transcendental knowledge, whoever tried to work in the material field without knowing the difference between spirit and matter, would come to the same inglorious end. No, said Mr. Rajda, the last rulers, most of them were communists. They said religion is opium. They didn't believe in religion at all. Therefore, said Prabhupada, they say something, we say something. He says something. You manufacture something. But nobody knows what is reality. That is the difficulty. Unless you know the reality, to suggest and say, I suggest it, does not mean that it is a solution. This is going on all over the world. Nate vidhu, swarta gating hi Vishnu. People do not know that their highest self-interest is Vishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam 7, 5:31. The external features, these material features, they are concerned with that. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence. But they do not know that beyond this, there is another element. Unless you come to that knowledge, there is no question of welfare activities. That knowledge is available in India. Srila Prabhupada accepted Mr. Rajda's visit as sincere and serious, and so he wanted to convince him to fully accept Krishna consciousness if he was really serious about introducing principles of dharma and morality into government. Real dharma had to start with an acceptance of self-realization as the all-important goal of life. It could not succeed just by rubber-stamping the government as religious. Now we have got good government, says Srila Prabhupada. Now we have got good government, Srila Prabhupada conceded. Very nice. Now you should take advantage of the privileges which are there in India. The Bhagavad Gita is there. If you take directions from Bhagavad Gita, then the whole human society will be benefited. That you do not know. That is the defect. Even big leaders, they profess to be students of Bhagavad Gita, but they do not know anything, although it is clearly stated. Who is the leader in India who does not know Bhagavad Gita? Everyone knows. Even Morarji Desai. When he was to be arrested by the leaders of government, he said, Wait, let me finish my reading of Bhagavad Gita. Is it not? Yes, replied Mr. Rajda. Srila Prabhupada. Let me finish my Bhagavad Gita, then you can harass me. Mr. Rajda added that Mr. Desai was also studying the Bhagavad Gita very minutely while he was in jail. But now, said Prabhupada, he says that Janata is my God. Did he not say this recently? Mr. Rajda admitted that Morarji Desai had stated that, but that he had later clarified it. It is the government's responsibility to make people God-conscious, Srila Prabhupada argued. It is a very simple thing. God personally is explaining how to become God-conscious. It is a very simple thing. Manmana bhavamad bhaktaha. Always think of Krishna and become his devotee. Bhagavad Gita 9:34. Even a child can do it, so why not leaders? Then their example should be followed. Why don't they do this God consciousness? Do it seriously. Then everything will be all right. They are defying the existence of God and reading Bhagavad Gita. This is their position. Srila Prabhupada explained to Mr. Rajda how he had been propagating the Krishna consciousness movement virtually alone. For years he had worked in the West, and now he was bringing his movement to India. Cooperate with us, he said. You are so kind. You have come to see me. You have got desire. So let us take it seriously. Mr. Rajda seemed very moved, and replied, yes, sir, correct. It is serious, said Prabhupada, but nobody has taken it seriously. Bhagavad Gita is a popular book. Everyone takes the Bhagavad Gita and says, I am a student of Bhagavad Gita. But if the leaders of a society really set the example, others will follow. That's correct, said Mr. Rajda. A serious effort should be made. Only lip service will not help. That is correct. Mr. Rajda reminded Prabhupada how he had supported the Juhu temple at the time of the attempted demolition. So you have given a great service, said Prabhupada. Now it is not only not demolished, but it is standing there. It is standing, affirmed Mr. Rajda, and a very nice temple. Mr. Rajda mentioned the possibility of a meeting between Srila Prabhupada and Morarji Desai. He said it could be arranged if it was convenient for Prabhupada. My life is dedicated for this purpose, said Prabhupada. It is convenient for me at any time. I am not keeping good health at the moment, yet still I have come. I am just trying, even up to the last moment of my life. If I can deliver some good to these people, that is my determination. What is this life? Life will end today or tomorrow or day after. But if you live just to the point, that is the idea. Otherwise, trees are also living. Thousands of years. What is the benefit? Mr. Rajda confirmed that the meeting could definitely be arranged. He would see the Prime Minister and fix up a time. So, says Srila Prabhupada, there's some Krishna's purpose that you were elected. It is through his blessings, said Mr. Rajda. Take advantage of his blessings, says Srila Prabhupada. Do some service. On the last scheduled evening of the Pandal, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra gave the introductory speech. Srila Prabhupada, however, did not attend. When the devotees asked to extend the Pandal another week, Prabhupada agreed, but said he would move to his now-ready quarters at Hare Krishna land. Before leaving, Srila Prabhupada spoke with Mr. and Mrs. Mahadevia. Prabhupada had one of the devotees purchase a nice sari, and he presented it to Mrs. Mahadevia. I stayed with you, and this is just my remembrance of thanks, so don't refuse. He gave a tape recorder to Mr. Mahadevia, a sari to the Mahadevia's daughter Preeti, and money to their servants. Mrs. Mahadevia was very pleased, but she protested, saying it was a traditional duty and a pleasure for them to receive Prabhupada in their home. Previously, Srila Prabhupada had been playing the tape recorder in Mr. Mahadevia's presence, and Mr. Mahadevia had admired the sound reproduction. Now, when Srila Prabhupada gave him the tape recorder, he protested, No, Prabhupada, I was not telling you that you should give me that tape recorder. I was just telling you that it's a good piece. No, Prabhupada insisted. This is for you. You must keep it.